Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sempre Milan bonus podcast on Substack. This week, we've decided to do something a little bit different amid all the buzz about the Mercato and Milan not getting any business done. We're going to be talking about the rules that we would change in football. Buongiorno, fratello.
Hi, friend. Good morning.
How goes it on this Friday morning after the USA's feisty loss against a canal?
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Move on.
Undefeated. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. As mentioned in the intro, we're going to be talking about some stuff that's along those lines. You know, there was red cards in that game last night and shit like that. And officiating is more under the microscope than it's ever been, like without a doubt. I think the introduction of VAR was meant to remove some of these debates, and I think in certain aspects of the laws of the game, it's actually just made it worse. It's intensified it. We are going to talk about some issues that have come up, some that Milan have suffered from, you know, because we've been on the wrong end of some bad calls over the last couple of seasons, without a doubt, and some of them that are perhaps a bit more on the fun side, you know. Essentially, the topic is going to be suggested rule changes in football, or changes to the laws of the game. Basically, we keep hearing every now and again that like a Swedish second division is trialing this particular thing, and you know, and VAR is now moving exclusively to semi-automatic offside in certain circumstances and things like that. So there is proof there that the laws of the game are constantly evolving, and you've got certain people like Wenger, for example, who came out and said something about offside, which we're going to talk about, and then Marco van Basten, who, as a centre forward, rather predictably said, just get rid of offsides altogether. Let's play it like basketball. But yeah, let's go through some. I have a few, and I think you're winging it, but look, we know what the common themes are probably going to be here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we can just go through. So the first one I had, this one isn't, I don't think this is something that's been called for very much at all, but I'd like to see it anyway. In direct free kick situations, at the moment, the wall has to be 10 yards away. The referee marks it out. He does his little walk, 10 steps, and then he sprays down the line. Move it back to 12 yards. Let's see more free kick goals.
That's
Thoughts?
fun. I like it. Yeah, I don't have any issue with it. Sometimes I think 10 yards is a little close, but maybe we're biased because our players hit the wall all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What am I wearing here?
I think that's a good one. I support it. Yeah.
So maybe we should do a vote, like yes or no, pretend we're the FIFA council or whatever. But I think the risk with this one, like the flip side to it, is when you're from a close range, so you're on the edge of the D, I suppose there is the potential of it becoming a bit like a penalty, where you can just
Mm.
step up and hit it hard, and if it gets through, it's in. However, I don't feel like we see enough goals from free kicks, you know? I just
Well,
don't.
and if you push it back and you're on the edge of the box, I feel like you're actually making it more difficult to score.
Mm, mm,
Because then you
yeah.
got a wall closer to the people, you know?
Mm.
Or the people. I'm sorry, guys, I haven't had coffee
The,
this morning.
the
The the
blokes.
the goalkeeper, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's almost like you got 6 extra people in there,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
think you could argue that there's an advantage there for the goalkeeper too, because it makes it really easy for him to say, "Okay, you guys cover that side. I'm going to stand this side," because you know
Mhm.
if it gets through. Whereas sometimes they're non-committal with it. But yeah, that's number one on the list. Number two that I had was, and this is a bit more serious, and this is something that if you follow Bidare on Twitter, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that. But if you follow him, you know that he's been campaigning for this, and he did a video on it. Basically, handball offences inside the box. They need to change. Like a little graze or whatever, for that to be punished with essentially a goal or like 95% chance of a goal, which is what a penalty is, that feels harsh. So maybe you could change the handball rule so that it's only a penalty if it is blocking a shot that is going towards goal. So, as an example of that, There've been penalties given in the Euros, which have been, arms just a little bit out by the side and it grazes the hand. And we're all sat as fans watching the replays on the VAR thinking, this is going to be given, and it feels disproportionate because that
Hmm.
results in a goal. But in actual fact, when the ball was in play, it was nowhere near a goal. However, you see like that shot in the game the other day involving Italy, where Fratesi puts his arm out and blocks it as it's curling towards the top corner. That for me, that has to be a penalty because a ball's travelling towards goal and he's put his arm in the way. And then you've got stuff like the Suarez against Ghana, where he literally punches it out of the top corner. That still needs to be a penalty and a red card. But the technology's there to be able to distinguish what is and what isn't. And I just think in certain scenarios, these handball red cards are harsh.
Yeah, actually, I was going to do one about the handball, but just to keep it with yours for a second, I agree. If the shot's on target, it's one thing. If it's just nowhere near it, and you see that all the time, and that's going to be a theme with all mine is how impactful is it on the game? Like,
Mm.
I want more subjectivity in our rules. Just use your fucking head. Like, was it a big deal? Did it really matter? That's more what I'm looking for. And to build on it, what I'm going to propose is a lot more radical for the
Oh,
handball
yeah.
rule. I'm going to say you're allowed to settle and swat away a ball with your hands. You just can't grab it. So if you're the attacker, you're receiving the ball and it might be a little over your head,
Yeah.
boop, just hit it down real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
Mm.
What difference does it make? And
Mm-hmm.
then if you're defending it, you could reach out and hit it, but you can't grab it. Only the goalkeeper can catch it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. And that one
Bring
might be a
hand
little more
Bring
controversial,
use
but
of hands into football. Yeah. Yeah.
well, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
Certainly add an
you're going to
extra
say it's
dynamic.
called football. Well, it's not called headball either, but we allow that. So.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah, maybe we change the entire name of the sport to like multi-ball or something like that.
Yeah.
Actually, that's one. Bring another ball onto the field. I wasn't going to mention that, but since we're on that, have you ever watched Australian rules football? You probably haven't, but
No.
it's
No.
it's mental. Basically, you can use both head and feet in that. Like you score points by drop kicking or but you have to when you're dribbling with the ball, you have to bounce it every now and again, and you have to let it
Mm.
touch. So it really does combine the two. It is mental. I don't understand the rules, but that is kind of along the lines of what you're talking about. Um, Next one that I've got again is on the penalty theme, so we can move away from it after this. The player that's fouled has to take the penalty. I think that
Yes.
might remove some diving for advantage. Say a fullback bursts into the box, tiny little touch, goes down, but there was a square on.
Hmm.
In future, if you bring that in, you might think, oh, we don't want the defender taking the penalty, but they might choose to stay honest and increase the chance of getting a goal.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that would change because I think most professional footballers would still back themselves to score a penalty, and it's
Hmm.
more likely to be the forwards that are inside boxes. Also, it removes the drama of those arguments when teams can't decide who's taking the penalty. But
Yeah.
that's maybe what I'd do.
Yeah. I would make a few changes. I like where you're at with it. I would also add that the taker cannot have any type of run up. 3 steps, no
Mm,
stutter, no stopping, no feints, nothing like that. And the goalkeeper is allowed 1 step off the line. I,
yeah.
I think we're making it easier and easier for the attacker to score a penalty and harder for the goalkeeper to save it. You look at the penalty scored against France. Mignon came off his line and they had to retake it after
Mm.
he saved the penalty. He came off half a step, and the only reason it happened is because the penalty taker, and I can't remember who it was. Who was that for France?
Lewandowski.
Lewandowski. He stutter stepped. He came to a dead stop 3 times. Like when you're going to do that many feints, of course the goalkeeper is going to make 1 step forward. He's coming off his
Yeah.
line. So I think they need to halt both of that. They need to be a little more lenient with the goalkeepers. Again, use your fucking head. Like, is
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
guy trying to get a mental advantage over the goalkeeper? Yes. Is the goalkeeper trying to get an advantage over the attacker? Of course. But is he doing it maliciously? No, it's just natural movements. You look at all the
Hmm.
penalties in history, keepers have always done this. It's just
Oh, I
now that
mean, the
we're
'05
preventing it.
final when dude
Yeah,
get
and that
so
is
far off his
excessive.
line.
That one's
Yeah.
excessive for sure,
Yeah.
but comes down to use your head. Does it make an impact?
Couple of ideas on the penalty front then. if we're going down the route of let's make penalties more difficult if there's going to be more awarded, number one, MLS style penalties. See how they used
Oh,
to be when you used to dribble from a certain point?
don't do
That
that.
would be kind of fun, though.
It's not. It's not good.
What happened? Why did they like bin that off? There must be a
Because it was
reason for it. Is it
awful.
because keepers were fouling or?
It was just dumb.
Yeah. Okay.
Dumb. They want to match the
Second
world.
one. Second one. Um, when the referee whistles, that's it. Off you go, keeper included. So when the ref blows his whistle for a penalty to be taken, it's up to the taker to try and take it quickly, and the keeper
Mm,
can come off his line at that point. So he
yeah.
can close him down, basically. So once the whistle blows, the ball's back in play. I
Hmm.
think that might be something, but that is again going to be quite hard to police. Like you're
Yeah.
talking split seconds and frames and whatnot. But yeah, some on the penalty front. Offside, clear daylight. Has to be clear daylight between the last defender and the last attacker.
I'm gonna again defer to my theme, and this is an actual one that I do believe in. The rest are kind of just bollocks, but this one I genuinely am like I've been advocating for a while. Add more subjectivity. We don't need precision lines to determine if someone's toenail was a bit further ahead than the other dude's shoulder, who was 18 yards away from him in a straight line. Like,
Mm,
does it impact the game? Is the defender back turned? Like, how far ahead is he? Can the defender still get to him? Is that minuscule difference really gonna make a difference in what the defender can do? If there's
mm,
a clear gap between them, a large gap, then of course it's offside. But if it's just a little bit, and then you're gonna say, well, how do you determine what a little bit is? Use your
yeah.
head. It'll be different each time. Think of this scenario. Is the defender anywhere near him? No? Okay, then it probably wasn't that big of a deal anyways. Like if one's on the left touchline, but the guy who he's now offside is on the far right, well then like he wasn't catching him anyways. If they're side by side and you got like a foot in front of him, then yeah, okay, maybe. But let's use our heads. We all
Mm,
know when an offside is called, and we're like, "Ah, that's shitty." Like that had nothing to do with it. Everyone is complaining about an offside, so
yeah.
allow the referees to use their head. Not everything has to be by the book.
Slight problem is some referees don't have much going on in their heads, but you know, here
Yeah,
we are.
I mean, they willingly chose to study and practice and work their way up to become the most hated person on the field at all times. So yeah,
And to be paid the least out of anybody on that field at that
yep.
time. I've got here just I don't have much to elaborate on other than sin bins / power plays. Maybe certain offences that would be a yellow card. Because they're talking about trialing
The blue
things like the
card.
orange
Yeah.
card or blue card or whatever. Maybe something like dissent. Because now only captains can talk to the referee, at least
Mhm.
that's the rule in the European Championship, and it's something that I think they want to bring in across the board. Maybe something like dissent or yellow straight up is quite harsh. Maybe you could do like a 10-minute sin bin or something, or a 5-minute, similar to a power play in ice hockey, where, if it's a minor infraction, then the other team has a man advantage for 2 minutes. And you tend to see quite an increase in the number of goals scored in that period. Again, you'd have to set out which offences were straight yellow cards, or maybe you just say any yellow card is a sin bin offence, and they have to spend
Mhm.
10 minutes off, for example, and then you have to work out what that means for substitutions and things like that. But yeah, thoughts?
Yeah, I don't hate the idea. I don't love the idea. I think we
Yeah.
need to flesh it out a little bit, but I do agree if you make it any yellow card, you're going to see a lot less.
Mm.
And that's what you want, right? You want a clean game, you want everyone to get a fair chance, and yellow cards aren't that. Now, there's a lot of bad yellow cards that shouldn't be yellow cards. I also think there should be no opportunity for dissent ever. I know the Euros has changed to where only the captain can talk to the referee. They're not enforcing that at all. You're still seeing them getting
Nope.
surrounded, but what
Mhm.
it should be is no one can. No player should be approaching an official ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how it is
Yeah.
in other sports. You don't go near the referee, and if you do, you're out. Ejection. Bye.
Mm.
Full stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever the referee
And
says is final unless VAR overturns it.
I think I was talking about this when I was brainstorming. I think it's hard when the sport is this way to try and almost bring it, especially behaviourally, back to a different way. So the example that's often used in this country is how in rugby, which is
Mhm.
obviously a brutal physical game, with really, really big, strong blokes. The respect that they have for the officials is like
Yeah.
it's unwavering. And again, it's the captain, but there's never any dissent. It's always that the referee goes over to the captain and explains his decision, and the captain just always accepts it. Maybe you might say, well, what about this? But generally, just respect is of
Mhm.
paramount importance. But the problem then is like I don't understand how you rewire the way that players are to then have everybody be behaviorally perfect. If you know what
Yeah,
I
that's
mean.
why I think you have to be really strict with it at first and say
Mm,
anyone who approaches the referee and tries to argue, gone.
mm,
For not permanent. Maybe give them the sin bin thing like you're talking about. But you don't see that in the NFL. Where some of the largest, angriest, most steroid-filled people on earth, and I've never seen one hit a ref. I've never seen one approach a referee. You
mm,
know, you could ask the referee some questions in the middle of the game. Say, "Hey ref, is this okay?" Or "Hey ref, can I
mm.
do this?" Or "Hey ref, did you see that? I'm not sure with that. Clean." You could do that. That's fine. But you
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
get in the ref's face after a call and try to argue it when they're surrounding him. It's not right. It creates bad fan culture, creates bad player culture. It's bad viewing. You don't want to see it. So
And it probably then like, come on, it's humans, and it probably does influence the referee's decisions from that point on.
of
If they're
course.
surrounded, it's only natural. Um, so yeah, that's an interesting one, really. Um, what was my next one here? Okay, this is a random one, probably a quick discussion. Time wasting from goalkeepers results in a corner rather
Hmm.
than a yellow card. So if you waste time, you're putting your team in danger rather than just getting a yellow card, which for goalkeepers rarely means anything.
Unless you have the sin bin for every yellow card.
Fucking bring it. Get him off. Giroud, you're
He's out
back
of
in.
there. Imagine that. Imagine
Yeah.
that. Your goalkeeper
Yeah.
gets a yellow for time wasting, and now an outfield player has to take it, and you guys just have to protect the ball with no one in
Mm,
goal for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. Ooh,
mm,
you'll never see
mm.
time wasting. Never.
So, if a player takes too long to take a throw in,
Hmm.
what happens? Well, it changes to the other team's throw in. So, the 6 second rule when a keeper has the ball in their hands for 6 seconds, if they take too long to distribute it, put the ball down. It's theirs now. It's a free kick. There you go. That's another idea. I'm sort of coming up with them on the spot here, but goalkeepers are too protected anyway, basically. Like, they're the only players on the pitch who can use their hands. They get so protected when it comes to set pieces. They're whistling for any slight bit of contact, despite the fact that they have an obvious advantage. And yeah, it's time to, because we've all seen it, get teams trying to run down the clock. We know it's part and parcel of the game. You might call it the dark arts or whatever, but there is an obvious way that you can bring in something that I think would deter them from doing it, but at the same time, it's not like ridiculous where you're giving a penalty because a keeper took too long for a goal kick. Give them a corner, then
Hmm.
they've got something to defend. Maybe. Okay, I'm gonna come on to the last two here. No, actually, I mentioned this, and then 60-minute games, right?
Mm.
Instead of 90, but the clock stops when the ball's out of play. That's a way to get rid of the dead ball time that
Hmm.
keeps being talked about. They did a study, and last season in the Premier League, the ball was in play on average for 54 minutes out of 90. And that's not good from an entertainment point of view. Now, the only thing that I don't know about this is like how long will it make the occasion, if you know what I mean? Are we coming in at a similar time? It takes an hour 50 for 2 hours of football, or will it just lengthen things because there's not going to be a rush to get the ball back in play to start the clock? I don't know. I think there needs to be some trial with this, but
Yeah.
Pioli's spoken about this and he's like massively in favor of us using real time rather
I've
than.
always believed in that too, and maybe that's just me coming from American sports where out of bounds stops the clock when there's a ref decision that stops the clock because you see it all the time, especially with VAR reviews. These VAR
Mhm,
reviews can take upwards of 4 or 5 minutes sometimes, and
mm.
you're already killing momentum with it, but now you're just right letting the clock run, and then it's up to the referee to decide how much of that he wants to give back. That's not right. That's not fair. So yeah, it should be a stop clock. Probably reduce it to 60 minutes. I think that makes sense because ultimately, when I go to a game, I plan out 2 hours, right?
Mhm.
9.5 or 9.5. An hour and a half is, the length of the game plus stoppage time, halftime. You map out 2 hours. If you do it this way, maybe you get no halftime either. You
Yeah,
just go
that could
60
be a good
nonstop.
because there's
Yeah.
enough. Yeah, there's enough breaks going on. Yeah,
Get a
maybe
water
then
break.
you could introduce something then like a tactical timeout to keep the TV lot happy. I don't know. Another thing I just randomly thought of as well. Have you ever seen like the 7-a-side games where instead of
Mm.
throw-ins they just put the ball on the line and pass it in?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
quite like
yeah.
the idea of passings because you see players stealing yards when it comes to throw-ins. Ref says no, you got to put it down there. But that's a really minor thing, and honestly, who cares?
Yeah.
These last two, I'm very passionate about, and the rest have been a little bit like throw it out there, devil's advocate. But these two, I'm particularly passionate about. Number one, are you familiar with the golden goal?
hmm
Bring that back in all tournament football. In extra time, the next goal wins. That would be amazing for drama.
I think I hate it.
Oh no,
I like the idea of the
no,
penalties, and I like the
yeah,
chance to rebuttal because
no, but it can
they
still go to penalties if there's no goal.
right, right, right. But if there is a goal, I like that there's a chance to bounce back. Like in the NFL playoffs, they do a similar situation
2
for
possessions. Yeah.
overtime. Well, actually, you're right. They just changed it. They changed it for the Super Bowl, but not the playoffs. So it used to be the team that starts overtime first. If they score, it's over. But if the team who has the ball second scores first on their first drive, then the other team gets a chance to equalize again.
Mhm.
Um,
Only
obviously, you couldn't
field
do
goals
that
though, I think, in
in
it.
no. It's touchdowns too
Touchdowns.
for the lead up, which it's
Yeah.
weird. I don't know. It's they need revamping too. We could do them in another episode, but
Yeah.
um, I like the idea of extra time the way it is. I think it's nice. I think it's fun.
Mm. No,
Yeah.
that's fair. That's fair. Some people do like it, and as you say, like over 30 minutes, what if the golden goal scored in the second minute of extra time? And it's like, well, the other team before would have had 28 minutes to answer back, which is a long time in football. I get that side of it, but I'm just thinking of the pure drama and the spectacle of like
Yeah.
a goal in a massive game to win it. That and the celebrations that would ensue. But yeah, there's arguably a sort of tactical element to hanging on
Imagine
to a lead.
scoring a golden goal and then overturned with VAR.
That would absolutely happen. That's
Yeah.
what people thought was happening in the World Cup final. When it went to extra time, and it was like, well, anyone who scores in extra time is surely going to win. And
Right. Right.
then that ball went in, and it was checking if it had crossed the line and things like that. And then they could celebrate. And then it turned out that France equalised anyway, so it went to penalties. That was
We wouldn't have had
madness.
that World Cup final if we had golden goal.
Well, Messi would have scored the winner instead. So that would have been good for narrative. But yeah,
Yeah, that's
instead we
true.
got Gabriel Montiel taking the winning penalty,
Yeah, nobody
So
knows.
both sides of it, I suppose. Final one. And I think I might have mentioned this to you before, but only as a brief comment. I am absolutely adamant that we must now return to 3 substitutions. I do not like having 5 subs. The reason for that is because it drastically reduces the jeopardy on a manager, because if they have 5 subs, they can change half their team if they get it wrong, And having 5 subs means they can bring on half their bench. So it's like law of averages where something could work. I much preferred 3 subs where there was more emphasis on getting the starting lineup right. Nudge, nudge, purely. And also there was more emphasis on getting the subs right, because you could only change 3 positions. You'd probably keep the extra one for concussion, say, or something like
Mhm.
that. Or maybe you say you can make a change at half time, but after that only 3. Something like that, maybe a little compromise. But I just think it's such a cop out for managers now to be able to change 5 out of 11 players.
Well, I was gonna say unlimited subs.
Unlimited roll on, roll off type thing.
Yeah, you could come back on
That'd be
too.
kind of cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just if someone gets hit, because you see it's where players get hurt and they got a bruise and they don't want to play for a little bit, and then 20 minutes go by and they're like, I wish I was still out there. Like I could go
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Let them come back.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's it.
I
There's
think
not much to elaborate on.
I believe that the reason that they initially, I could be wrong on this, but I think the reason that they initially switched to 5 subs was something COVID related, where
Yes. Yeah.
players were so out of fitness and squads were
The-
depleted and things like that that they
exactly.
needed it. But now we don't need it anymore. We don't need it. Like you got to you've got to take some accountability. You can't be going and changing half your team. But also the unlimited subs thing I kind of like as well.
Go
The
either way. You never know.
other radical thing was build some boards around the pitch so the ball can stay in play and you can bang it off the side and stuff like that.
Like
You
futsal.
know, like indoor five-a-side. Yeah,
Yeah.
like futsal. Yeah. That would be mad.
That would be interesting. Yeah. I don't know how that would work from like a fan viewing perspective. I mean, I guess
Yeah,
plexiglass, but yeah, that would be interesting. I
like
don't know
ice
how I feel
hockey,
about
innit?
it. I don't hate it. I'm not sure if I'm for it. Interesting.
Yeah, I think with the plexiglass, it'd have to be so high and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, there we've riffed a few off. Let us know what you think. I'm sure people are going to have some opinions on this. There's probably things that we missed, you know, different facets of the game that haven't even thought about, like tournament rules and Champions League formats and all that kind of thing. We were just talking more about the in-game rules and things like that. But yeah, let us know your thoughts on what we've discussed. Any rules you'd like to bring in? Anything that you want to shout at us for that we got massively wrong? Probably me. And yeah, we'll be back next week with another bonus episode. Have a good weekend, everyone.